And we'll see if it starts up on here. Triple tap lets me zoom out. Should start shortly. Well, it said go live. Now it's taking its time. Huh. Oh, there it goes. It was just a little delayed. Welcome back, everybody, to Taylosa Talks. It's been a while, but we're back with Pete again. Thanks for joining us on this late evening.
And I believe it's our third Taylosa.
This is the third?
Yeah.
Wow. Oh my goodness. We've had you on the show, and then after you, we'll have my dad on, and then back to you, and then my dad, and now you again. So
are you sick of me yet?
No, no. You're definitely a lot less regular than my dad is, but
and a lot less. What's the word? Refined.
We'd say you got different experiences, different things to talk about. But we titled the stream very cleverly. You come up with the title, "Getting into Training," because we're taking a trip in not too long, and we're going to be taking a cross-continental train ride. Is that what that's called?
Courtesy of Amtrak. We're
Yeah.
going to cross the Continental Divide from coast to coast, San Francisco to New York Penn Station.
Yeah. Yeah.
And all points in between. It's
right.
Firstly, the California Zephyr from San Francisco. Actually, it's Richmond, California, which is where the BART station in San Francisco joins up with the Amtrak line. The California Zephyr takes us all the way through Sacramento, Reno, Salt Lake City, Denver.
I've been there in a while.
Yeah.
No,
Luckily, it only stops there for an hour. Not enough time to go to the casino and lose our wages.
So we'll keep our money on this one, at least a little bit. Well, I'm excited because this was kind of a spontaneous decision. You kind of surprised us with it.
Because it was your birthday and Louise's birthday almost within a couple of weeks of each other.
Right.
I thought, since you've never been to New York, why not come along with me?
Yeah, no, this is really exciting because I've always wanted to see New York and I've never been able to, just never had the opportunity or timeline open up. But now that there's an opportunity, we want to take advantage of it, especially because Louise's schedule is.
And I'm actually I'm a rail file, not rail phobe.
Yeah.
I'm a member of the National Rail Passengers Association of the United States. And if you pay your $50 membership fee, you get 10% off your fares.
That's quite a bit.
Yeah, and that's worth it because for that $50 membership fee, you're actually supporting the lobby group that supports rail travel in the US, and they're a big supporter of rail passengers. And I'll say lobbyist might not be the right word, but I think we need to get into trains more, and it's a very relaxing way to travel.
Yeah.
And get people off the interstates, and you can enjoy the trip. Like, you can fly coast to coast in 5 hours, but you don't see anything.
Right. No.
With rail travel, you can bring your own books and your own iPads and enjoy the view, and there's a restaurant on board the train. You can actually shower and do all kinds of things on board.
Lots more leg room, I'm sure.
Yeah, I shouldn't say it, but there's less security. You can go on board without going through x-ray machines or the thing that whizzes around your head and you hold your hands up like this.
A lot more convenient.
I'll take that off. Is that too shiny for the camera?
We'll have to check the glare.
I can't see the picture. Is that all right like that?
Yeah. Let me see if I can zoom out. Can you still read the chat?
Oh, there we go. Oh, yeah.
Now you can see us.
Much better. There's a little delay there.
Yeah, a little bit.
That's normal.
Yeah, that's
anyway. By the way, I love this couch. I think it's new since I love this shaggy thing. This shaggy pillow.
This is very nice. Honestly,
how many goats have to be killed to make this?
We had to take a lot.
Can I take this home, Drew?
Actually,
can we take it on the train trip?
We've been. I wish you could, because we've been actively. Well, we've been going back and forth on this futon because I'm trying to get rid of as much stuff as possible. You should have seen this room before you got here. So for those who don't know, he's visiting from out of town, obviously, and he stayed here just one night. But it was boxes and stuff strung out all over the place, and there's so much tidying up that we've neglected because we've both been working so much and getting ready for travel with the Puerto Rican trip. So we've organized it all up for you, but
well, that's so nice.
and
the little boxes, any little pretty boxes, ended up getting stuck on the wall, yeah. And the big ugly boxes went out into the recycling.
Right. Yeah. So we still have a lot more to do. Still a bunch of stuff in the closet to get through, but. So Cato is watching from Australia.
Oh, hey,
so we've got some
Aussie. What part of Australia is it? Cato, I can't see.
Yeah, Cato Nakamura. We also have Mr. Miguel Ramos saying what ups. Justin Miller says hello. Alpha DeWolf is excited for more travel vlogs. Me too. This was not a trip we were anticipating on making this early.
Sydney.
Oh, cool.
Hey, Cato. I'm from Blue Mountains originally.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I figured because we were going live so late, we would probably not catch much of the East Coast, but maybe.
Didn't I say to you that Australia is alive right now? We
got
a lot of Aussie.
How do you calculate the time there? Do you go backwards or forwards?
Well,
is it easier?
I'm used to the East Coast.
Oh, right.
You add 4 hours and take away 12, so it's a little bit confusing.
You're right. So you add 4 hours and then switch AM and PM.
Well, the easiest way is Sydney, for example, in summertime, which it's not now, it's wintertime, is 10 hours ahead of GMT, and we're on the East Coast of the US, 5 hours behind, so it's 15 hours difference.
Oh, okay.
Sydney is 15 hours, typically 15 or 16, depending on the daylight saving.
Gotcha.
Ahead of the East Coast of the US. So you can say 16 hours ahead or 8 hours behind plus 1 day.
Cool.
That's one way of doing it.
That's what, or we could ask Cato. He says it's 3:21 p.m. at the moment. So
okay. Well,
we'll just go live every
time.
Here
it is 21 minutes past 8 o'clock at night.
Yeah, this is getting kind of late.
But, but we're a day behind you, Cato.
Oh, right.
We're very slow in America. You're a day ahead.
Tell us what stocks to buy.
Oh, yeah.
We'll see how it does the next day. What do you have that's taking up storage space, lights, tripods? Yeah, it's a lot of just stuff that's accumulated over the years. Just like, because I used to have that much bigger office, if you remember.
I sure
do. That was filled with lights and stands, and obviously we downsized to save on cost because I realized I was blowing all my money on my background, which doesn't make that big a difference for the videos.
Biting into your margins.
Yeah, we got rid of most of it, but still a lot of it's left over of just a bunch of random cables and cases, and I used to let companies mail me stuff all the time, but
the good thing is when you downsize in size and literally your geographical office is much smaller, it forces you to get rid of stuff that you don't need, and it's like Murphy's Law. If you had an office the size of, Shea Stadium, you collect the whole, in a few years it'll be full of boxes and junk. But if you have a small office, you're forced to get rid of it. And
I've kind of got more into that because I was only in that big office for a year and a half or so, and by the end of it, I was kind of just sick and tired of
too much
all this
baggage.
stuff.
And
you put a bunch of stuff in one room in a different closet. By the end of it, I'm like, I don't even know what to do with all that. We weren't using all that space as cool as it was, when you
wasn't used efficiently.
No, it wasn't. Whereas here we're trying to be as efficient as we can. Like, I don't like this desk anymore. I'm trying to get rid of this desk because it's way too big, and I could get by with a much smaller desk. But I also just think things weigh you down to a certain extent.
That's right, lighten the load. I just wanted to, since you've got a few Aussie listeners there, one thing that I've really paid a lot of attention to in the last few days is the Australian Prime Minister has announced that the borders will be opening, I think, at the end of February or early March, and I'm really happy to hear that. I think we call him affectionately ScoMo or Scott Morrison. He's decided that weighed up the pros and cons of having the borders open and shut. And now he's decided, look, we have to live with it. We have to live with the pandemic as long as you're fully vaccinated or you've had the disease in the last 6 months or whatever, then you can come. So I'm looking forward to that.
You're both. You qualified.
Well, I'm both. I had it at Christmas, and I've been vaccinated before I left Australia in June last year. I had the AstraZeneca.
And you haven't been back to Australia?
I have not been back since June.
Wow.
And I've also, when I came back to the States, I got the Pfizer 1-2 in August, and now I've just had the booster for Pfizer.
Oh, the booster, cool, smart.
Plus, I've got it. I mean, if I had any more shots, I'd feel like a pincushion. So I'm very happy. Yeah. I'm very glad that ScoMo has decided finally to open.
Oh, that's great. And I think we've been trying to go there for so long.
Yeah,
I remember
visiting the Blue Mountains.
Yeah, I remember it was. I think it was Christmas time or winter here in 2019, and we were saying, I hope we can go visit because there's still in-laws I haven't met in Australia.
Oh yeah, Louisa's family.
Right, and we were hoping to visit them by Christmas of the following year. So he said, let's shoot. We were planning for that. Like, let's shoot for Christmas of 2020, and of course, real quick started shutting down. And ever since then, we've been trying to find a good window.
The pandemic has really thrown the travel industry upside down.
Yeah, of course. Oh yeah, Cato says borders open on February 21st, I believe.
Awesome. Thank you for that news, Cato.
That's soon. That's coming. It's the 8th.
A couple of weeks away.
9th for them.
So, you know what? My prediction about airfares is that the next day, the price of fares will just skyrocket.
Because everyone's going to go.
Exactly. So, if you want to buy a ticket, buy it on the 20th if you can get in. Because the next day, the 21st, every seat will be packed.
Do you think they're even changing now just because of the announcement?
I'm sure. Like, I haven't been on to scout the airfares.
Yeah.
But I'm sure this will result in a ballooning of the fares but especially between the US and Australia, and in Europe, between Europe and Australia as well.
Mm-hmm. Fun.
So that's good.
Yeah, we hope if you ever come back to visit. Yeah, I hope so. You can hate my studio. There's junk in every nook and cranny you could think of. Yeah, we've all got messy rooms, I guess.
Well, I think with your experience cleaning up this place, a lot of people are actually going to clean out their place.
It's not spring cleaning, but
box cleaning.
It's pre-spring cleaning, yeah, something like that. But I'm actually really excited because, especially in our Discord, we've definitely talked a lot about train versus vehicles
in terms of
transport, and it's undeniable that they're far more efficient and can move so many more people
with less fuel, less greenhouse gases, and
and the trick is just layouts of things, really, like where the trains stop and how
really sadly Amtrak's coverage in the United States has gone down a lot in the last 100 years. But still there's still good. There's 3 different trains you can go from the West Coast to the East Coast. Yeah, you can leave from Seattle to Chicago. As we're doing tomorrow, we're going San Francisco to Chicago and then on to New York. Chicago is like the hub for Amtrak.
Tons of trains.
All the trains from the southeast, from the southwest, from the northwest, and from the northeast all seem to converge onto Chicago. And so no matter where you're going from and to, you always go through Chicago, which is good for us. Yeah. I've never spent any time in the city. And
I've had 2 layovers there.
Oh, you have?
One was recently. We on the way back from Puerto Rico, we stopped at the Chicago airport for about 2 hours.
Well, with the train, the difference between the train and the plane, in most cases, the train will take you right downtown.
Oh, nice.
And the train stations are absolutely amazing examples of beautiful Renaissance architecture. When you see New York Penn Station and Chicago Station, they're like, fantastic examples of Victorian architecture.
Oh, cool.
And
because I'm always so far away.
Yeah, at the airport, you're like 30 miles out of town, and you don't even leave the terminal.
You can barely see the skyline.
That's right. And when we're in Chicago, we'll have 7 hours layover there.
Oh, that's good.
We can store our baggage at the first class lounge, and then we've got, say, 6 hours to walk down to the lake and have some famous deep dish Chicago pizza.
That's going to be great. Yeah. Wow, I'm excited for that. Cato says Japan's train system is probably the best in the world. Unfortunately, Australia's not so much.
I agree with you, Cato. I will be stopping in Tokyo on my way to Bangkok after this trip. That's another story. We haven't even got to that yet.
So many stories.
When I saw your name, Cato, I thought, that sounds like he's Japanese.
Oh, yeah.
But the trains in Japan are well known to be very, very efficient. I've spent a lot of time on trains in Europe. They're amazing. But I can't compare Japan and Europe. I know is the the European trains are
fast too.
Amazing. The problem with American trains is that the tracks are not aligned very well, and they follow the same windy path that that they got when they were created hundreds
Oh,
of years
I
ago.
see.
Whereas
They haven't changed.
what's happened in Europe is that they've built they've got new easements to build nice high-speed trains. Like they have the Thalys that goes from Amsterdam to Paris in 3 hours, stopping in Brussels, or the ICE in Germany, which goes from like Hamburg down to Munich in 2 hours, 3 hours.
Oh, wow.
And they travel at 300 kilometers an hour, very, very fast, 330 kilometers an hour.
And it probably feels perfectly smooth, right?
It does.
Yeah.
It does, yeah.
Like you're barely moving.
It looks like a bullet train in Japan.
Every person I've talked to that's been to Japan tells me it's incredible. Yeah. Like, I haven't heard someone that had a bad Japan experience.
Well, listen, I think if you're a commuter and you really want to get from one city to another, like Osaka to Tokyo or Nagasaki, whatever, it's great. But if you're a tourist like us, it's too fast. Because I've traveled on the ICE in Germany and the Thalys in Netherlands and France.
Wow.
It's a very luxurious experience. It's a little bit expensive, but it's a blur. And you've got the speedometer in the front of each carriage.
Oh, it tells you.
It tells you doing 330 kilometers an hour. Your hair, I used to have hair, it all got blown off.
You just rode that train once. It's all gone.
When I'm in Europe, I like to take the slow train. That's what my point is. Like, for example,
take your time.
Going from Frankfurt to Cologne, it follows every bend of the Rhine River, and around every bend there's another castle. Wow. It's about a 3-hour trip, and if you take the ICE, it's 1 hour and it's a blur. But if you're a commuter, it's very functional and practical. Sure,
because you're just trying to get to work on time.
Yeah,
so
that's right.
Well, what's interesting is Japan still has, a very present car market. It's still really popular number of vehicles, and still lots of public transport. So there's, because I was thinking of, like, you originally wanted to take a train up to visit us, but then just scheduling wise, it
didn't work out. Like from San Francisco to where you were.
Right. Yeah. So it made more sense to get the rental car.
The problem with Amtrak is, compared to Europe and I'm sure Japan, is that the coverage. The United States is a very large geographical mass.
True. Japan is like.
And the population density is much greater, so it makes sense to have all the branch lines. And in the US and in Australia, as Cato pointed out, in the 1960s, people moved away from trains.
Right.
Actually, starting before that, 1950s, people moved out of the trains and automobiles became more affordable for the general public.
Right.
And transportation for goods and like heavy goods, like in Australia, wheat and iron ore and all that, moved to trucks because the road system was improved over the years, and it just was not cost effective. Now governments are realizing the benefit of rail, and they're trying to the best that they can do improve the rail infrastructure. And I mean, I just think about one state in Australia, Victoria. If you look at a rail map of that state in the 1940s, it was like 30,000 miles of track. There was it was like a web of tracks all over the entire state, and to a lesser extent New South Wales. But today it's just the bare bones, and they've replaced a lot of them with bus services, which is takes out the fun of it. It takes away the fun of it.
That definitely doesn't feel as fun. I've taken buses before.
But anyway, the train we're going on, the California Zephyr, it's like a microcosm of society on wheels.
Yeah.
We've got like a little mini city. There's restaurants, there's the observation car with a shop on board where you can buy snacks and souvenirs, and you can shower on board. We've got you and Louise have got your cabin, I've got my cabin. So it's like a hotel on wheels.
Yeah, and the windows constantly changing.
The view is always changing.
That's awesome.
That's right.
Scott Stowell says trains are pretty cool. Took one from Germany through Austria into Italy once, and it was so pretty.
Yes.
But he still prefers flying. I think it's different depending on what you're trying to do. If you're trying to spend a lot of time at your destination, get there as quickly as possible, that's probably
just recently I was in Prague, which is one of my favorite cities in Europe. I looked at all options to go to Italy, where my adopted mother used to live. She just passed, unfortunately. But the most effective option is just to fly. For example, EasyJet is 28 euros each way between Prague and Milan. And if you go by train, it's a very beautiful trip.
Yeah.
But it takes 12 hours, and you've got to stop at you change trains at 3 different places.
Oh, okay.
So you get up at like 7 a.m. and you get there at 10 p.m. It's just, it's a whole day. And
sure.
But to fly, it's 45 minutes across the Swiss Alps.
Right. It's really quick. I was reading some article about it recently because I saw people on Reddit complaining about the train system in the United Kingdom being not as affordable as other places in Europe. And they said it was a combination of, well, they were saying like the same distance was even cheaper on a plane. And the answers that people were posting was about how with certain railways you don't have much competition because if it's all privatized, then one company can
have a monopoly.
Right. They have complete control over all the rail systems. So there's airlines are competing.
The airlines have just become so efficient. Like they figured out how to fill they have computers designed to maximize the efficiency and fill every seat, and then fares are always changing.
Right.
But with trains, it's a little bit more cumbersome. You don't have the flexibility of, like, for example, flying from London to Edinburgh, there's probably 3 flights an hour. If you go by train, there's two trains a day.
Oh, wow.
But if the airplane was never invented, the train network would be phenomenal.
Oh, sure.
It's just because everybody loves the convenience and the speed of flying. It's kind of killed it. But in my age, I actually prefer to travel by train.
If ever possible.
Wherever possible. If you've got the time.
Right. Because that's what we're going to spend more time on the train than in our actual destination, but
that's right.
That's what I'm
the journey there, not the destination.
Right, but
although you will be spending a few days in New York.
Right, yeah. But if you count like the fact that on the train we're gonna have a place to sleep and the meals, then
if you all adds up, you've got 3 days hotel accommodation for 2, all meals, and you get to your destination. So
right, I would almost rather than do a whole loop. Just come right back where I started.
Well, you could do that as well if you wanted to. Spend a week in New York and come back on the same train and reverse. Right. If you had the time, but you've obviously got to come back and go to work.
Yeah, we had other trips already scheduled. I was saying earlier that I wish the trains could adopt some kind of internet connection because I could definitely spend more time on it if I knew I could work from it. And you're going to have our own cabin, and I'm sure there's a place to charge your devices and all, because it's basically a hotel.
Oh, you know what we've got to do?
What?
There's like one outlet in each cabin. We better take a power strip.
Oh, that's a good idea.
So you've got your lights and your microphone and your
I don't know how much
I don't know if the train conductor would let you carry on your workstation, your iPad, your MacBook Pro.
My MacBook kind of turns into my my hub because it's got all these ports on it, so I would just charge my phone and my iPad off of the laptop.
I mean, isn't it great? Like, you'll have your little cabin, you can do all your own editing there.
Right.
And you can,
I don't know if I want to, though. I want to look out the window.
You want to be disconnected for a short while, at least.
A little bit. Maybe we'll wait till it's boring out, right? You said there's a couple stretches of the country that are
I've done this trip before about 6 months ago. It's very interesting from San Francisco until you get to Denver. And then after Denver, you're in the Midwest.
And then there's
lots and lots of cornfields.
A lot of the same stuff.
There won't be much corn now because it's the middle of winter.
Oh, that's true.
It'll probably make it even more boring, and I shouldn't say that. It's interesting. It's all interesting to me.
Right.
I think one of the interesting points of that sector is crossing the Mississippi.
Oh, yeah, I've never done that.
It's like 5 miles wide where you cross it.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I haven't crossed it on a train.
I think it's
I've flown over.
I think it's in Iowa.
Oh, okay.
Where the California Zephyr crosses the Mississippi.
That sounds like fun.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
And the last time I did it, the train was late into Chicago and they had 1 hour, but this time I'm hoping it's on time so we can have a full 7 hours there.
Yeah, lots of time to explore. That would be awesome. Alpha says I just prefer to drive. I think there's...
My answer to that is try the train once.
Just try it once. Yeah. I feel like, to me, it's like arguing which tool is better, a hammer or a saw.
Or an electric screw gun.
Yeah, it's like...
An electric screw gun is good because you can screw in a lot of screws very quickly, but with a hammer you get muscles because you're exercising.
Right. Yeah. Right, you could hammer a screw all day and get nowhere. You could try to screw a nail and also get nowhere. To me, it's like, depending on the use case.
But the hammer not knocking in nails, you disturb your neighbors. That's a good thing. The noise.
That's true. The noise difference. So I'm excited because I've definitely you know, my whole life had the convenience of cars to drive around and have that flexibility of schedule, but I haven't gotten to appreciate the train travel. I've done lots of flying, so this is new for me. And
well, I'd be very interested to hear what you think about it when we get to New York. Maybe we can do another blog.
Yeah, we'll see what internet we get on. Like we're live streaming right now over cellular connection. We're not using Wi-Fi for this because Starlink's been spotty lately. But
not a good plug for Starlink.
No, I'm afraid not. I'm gonna have to bring that up. Though we're using this box from Starlink as a tripod for this box for this iPad. So we'll thank Starlink for that. But
at least it hasn't collapsed yet.
It hasn't. Yeah, I'll do a review on that later this month. We'll do like because it's been almost a year now, so it's Starlink 1 year later. Justin Miller says, I feel like I should try a train now. See, Amtrak should be reimbursing you. I know. Well, Kato says, want to go to the U.S. when I get the chance. Only been to Japan in terms of international travel. Gotcha. Scott says, Prague looks gorgeous. It's on my list of places I want to go.
Oh, let me tell you, Scott, about I have a very good friend that I work with in Afghanistan who is from Prague, and I've known him since 2015, and I have visited him and his family several times since in Prague 6, which is on the other side of the river from the city. There's this most amazing hotel there that was built in the 1950s when it was occupied by the Russians. And it's called the International Hotel Prague. And it was $32 a night to stay in this grand old communist hotel in very good condition. You go into the lobby, it's like 3 stories high, just the lobby internal.
Whoa.
And it's got these massive big crystal chandeliers everywhere.
Wow.
And
that sounds like fun.
Murals on the wall painted like, it's obvious, it's like a time warp to the communist days.
They've like preserved everything.
Exactly. And on the walls you've got these really old paintings of painted on the wall directly of these women carrying sacks of wheat and the men carrying their sickles out to slash the wheat. You know, it's like communism where everybody's out in the farm slashing the wheat with a sickle and
for the greater
so it's just a real trip.
That sounds like fun. So what was it called again? The
International Hotel Prague.
International Hotel
Prague. International Hotel, something.
Check
like
that out if you ever get
$32 a night. And if you pay another 30 euros a night, no, 25 euros a night, they'll upgrade you to a suite, which is as big as a house. I mean,
you've got
my suite, I paid the extra 25 euros a night to upgrade to the 11th floor, which is in the center tower of this massive big hotel. It's got like 1,000 rooms in it, you know. Wow. I'm in on the suites, and the tower in the middle of the hotel. It's like a big wedding cake sort of thing, you know.
Wow.
There's only two suites per floor, so I basically had half the floor.
Oh my gosh. Wow. When you go to New York, go see the Statue of Liberty. I've always wanted to see it. You know what the most consistent thing I've heard about the Statue of Liberty of everyone that goes there is that it's smaller than you think.
Yes.
Have you been?
I've been there. When I was a pilot, I used to fly tourists up and down the Hudson River. This was before 9/11.
Right.
And I've actually got some amazing photos of the World Trade Center.
Oh,
it took
really?
6 months, or passengers took 6 months.
Wow.
Before 9/11 happened.
So this was 2001.
Yeah.
You took pictures.
It was early in 2001.
Wow. That's right. Louise was telling me at one point her mom took her. In the Trade Center.
Yeah, we were up there. That's right.
What year was that?
Oh, that would have been in the late 90s.
Wow.
But what impressed me about the World Trade Center is that the maximum altitude you're allowed to fly light airplanes or helicopters is 1,000 feet, because above that, and you have to fly over the Hudson River.
Right.
Above that, you're in the airspace of the airliners.
Oh,
so small planes have to be below 9. So the maximum altitude I could go was 1,000 feet. So I'm flying up the Hudson River and I look out my right side and the World Trade Center is towering over me. That's how big it was. It was 1,150 feet. 150 feet higher than the highest altitude that I was allowed to fly.
So you couldn't see above it.
Well, I couldn't get an aerial view looking down at it without violating airspace rules.
Right. Wow. That's amazing. I didn't know you were that close. Scott says, thank you. I will keep that in mind. I've got a ton of airline miles burning a hole in my pocket. Just need the craziness in the world to die down some first. That's fair. I've heard it's pretty tricky between all the different countries in Europe and the different regulations.
Oh gosh, what can I say? The COVID epidemic has completely turned the travel
right
experience, for want of a better word, upside down. And,
sure.
And what's happened, like my recent trip to Europe, I realized that every nation in the European Union has a different set of rules.
Oh, geez.
So if you're just going, say, from Czech Republic to Italy, it's not like going from California to Nevada.
Right.
You've got to have a PCR test not more than 30 or 48 hours before travel, and it's got to be with a QR code verifiable.
Oh,
So
wow.
what it means in essence is you spend half a day preparing for a trip every time you cross a border in Europe.
Which is one of the strengths Europe has always had, is you've been able to just dart between countries.
That's
before.
right.
So now there's bumps every step of the way.
I think it just really brought out the differences in the European Union, that they've not homogenized the rules for COVID. Like the rules in Italy are much more stringent than they are for the Czech Republic. And
interesting.
So that spoils travel these days. But
yeah.
in a few years, maybe this will all go away and things will go back to normal. But that's wishful thinking.
I feel like we'll just get used to it. Come to
I think that's what's going to happen with
Yeah.
COVID. I think we're just going to learn to live with it.
Right.
And I
do
think
too.
ScoMo has decided. I hope you don't think I'm being derogatory by calling him that, but at least he's realised that in Australia's example, we have to live with it, and we can't be the hermit kingdom anymore.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a great decision, because obviously there's not a perfect solution. I mean, there's pros and cons.
There's no right answer, but there's a lot of wrong answers.
Right.
Some are more wrong than others.
Especially with, you've got your home there and people there, and you haven't been able to see them for all this time.
Well, that's because I'm traveling on my US passport.
Right.
But I'm hoping, I actually looked at the Australian Foreign Affairs website tonight, that they'll reinstigate the ETA, Electronic Travel Authorities, but I tried to apply for one tonight. They still haven't done it yet. But
okay.
I'm assuming in the next few weeks they'll reopen that capability.
Gotcha. Okay. Halami said, would be funny if you tried live streaming on the train ride. I think that might be worth it if we can get a signal.
I think we can try it. I don't think it's going to work as we cross the Rockies, because the interesting thing about the train ride as we cross the Rockies, the train track doesn't follow any highway for like 200 miles.
Wow.
You're following inside I think it's the Colorado River or one of the rivers there.
But you're not next to a roadway.
You're not next to an interstate.
Yeah.
And when they built out the infrastructure for the cellular network nationwide, they followed the interstates.
Right.
And not the train track. So wherever there's an interstate near the train track, you'll get good coverage.
Did you have Mint Mobile last time you took the train ride?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
But
did you notice?
I wasn't really paying a lot of attention.
Gotcha.
I was looking outside, but we can try it.
Yeah. I'd be curious, just because I think that'd be like a fun.
I think that would be awesome.
And you can't stream from an airplane.
No, because your cell phone has to be turned off.
However, the Wi-Fi is pretty slow.
I have to put out a little plug for my favorite airline.
Wait.
I'm not allowed to do that.
Well, I mean, you could plug, but I just don't want your card's number on.
Oh no, the number's on the back. Nobody can see it.
Oh, you sure?
Oh wait, I'll know this one. Oops. I am going to put out, because you brought out the subject of live streaming from airplanes. JetBlue now has.
I think the bit rate is low enough you can't even read it.
Oh, probably.
You're good, I think.
No, but even on JetBlue, you can. And I made a video. Well, I made some videos, and I didn't stream, but I made a few MP4s. Is that it?
Yeah.
And sent them from the plane.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Who did you send them to?
Oh, I don't know, WhatsApp.
You were just
WhatsApp.
sending them videos.
I wasn't streaming. I saved them as a file and sent the file.
Gotcha. Yeah. That I'm sure is doable, but Wi-Fi on planes has always been. I'm hoping Starlink changes that, but I'm on the ground and having a hard time streaming over Starlink, so we gotta wait till it stabilizes. Randy's in the chat. You met him.
Oh, okay. Hi, Randy. How are you doing, buddy?
He's on the East Coast.
Oh, where are you at?
His wife just joined the Air Force, so they're. Why am I blanking? Somewhere in Virginia.
Air Force Base is in Virginia, I think.
He says ahoy. Only time I've been on a plane happened to have been in this summer. I had a really hard time breathing. Oh yeah, I know some people that get really, really nervous about it.
Was it because the air was thin, or is it just anxiety? That's an interesting.
Could be that. Could be the masks too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Virginia. That's right. You're staying on the 11th floor of a building. He hates heights.
Oh,
you must be good with heights.
Oh, well, actually, today I walked across the dam.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And I got really wobbly knees. I'm a helicopter pilot. I feel very, very safe inside a helicopter.
Really?
Even if I'm at 10,000 feet and the engine stops, I'm still feeling very safe than walking across a bloody footbridge, that's 10 feet off the ground. It's a psychological thing. Your uncle, Sonny, I guess he's your uncle.
A grandpa.
Yeah. Grandpa. Yeah. He said to me that it's like scuba diving.
Mm-hmm.
If you're scuba diving in 100 feet of water and you're like 50 feet,
right.
you feel safe because there's only 50 feet more down to the bottom.
Right.
But if you swim out over a ledge and it's suddenly like 2,000 feet deep, even though you're at the same depth,
it just makes you feel.
It makes you feel that I'm going back.
Louise doesn't like the deep waters either. We were doing a lot of snorkeling in Puerto Rico.
But it's not the water below you that matters, it's above you.
Right. That's true. The water below you can't do it.
Like you're going to drown in 6 feet of water.
Right. I think it's more just the unknown, right?
It's easy. It's just as easy to drown in 6 feet deep of water when you've got 2,000 feet below you than it is when you've got 1 foot below you.
Sure. Yeah. There was a few moments when we were snorkeling in Puerto Rico that I was getting a tad nervous. I was still comfortable, but there were lots of coral reefs that we were looking at with our goggles.
And they're vertical?
Yeah, and there were parts that would kind of go inward like a cave.
Oh, okay. And
there were huge blue schools of fish that would go under there. So me and our friend Zach, we were trying to follow him. And I would go down, and the waves kind of pushing you a little bit. So I'd get in there, and I'd look, and I'd be like, "Oh, I can't just kick off the bottom now, because if I do that, I'm going to hit my head. So I need to actively
push yourself away, because if you go up, you're going to get big gashes in your head from the
I almost did a couple times. I went up, and it's right there. So when you get under like that, it makes you a little nervous. But
you've got to be really careful. Don't cut yourself underwater, because the blood will attract sharks.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah.
I feel like the shark attacks are so rare. It's the things we fear about. People's fear of flying or fear of sharks. Because she saw a stingray and that she was done after that.
Well, that's how Steve Irwin died.
Right.
Remember?
Right. That was a sad day.
Yes.
But it was small and far away. But there's actually more cows that kill people every year than sharks. Did you know that?
I would not be surprised.
Yeah, it's like sharks are it's so rare, honestly. The amount of times
I've been on a trip with Ron and Valerie Taylor, the famous underwater photographers in Australia that did a lot of the underwater photography for the movie Jaws.
Oh, really?
And they're unfortunately now they're both deceased, but they were the big advocates for protecting sharks.
Yeah.
And if you want to look them up, Ron and Valerie Taylor, but her explanation is that we as human beings migrated out of the sea, and our fear of sharks stems from that prehistoric relationship that we had with them while we still lived in the ocean.
Wow. Man,
that's like 5 million years ago.
Yeah, that's a deeply rooted
But we still have this ingrained fear of sharks that stems that far back.
Wow.
It's a fascinating theory.
I've always thought they were cool.
Yeah, well, until they bite you.
Well, yeah, I've never had one come at me, but when we were out there looking at fish and stuff, I'll be honest, there was a little part of me that was hoping just to see some big great white not come at me or get close. I just wanted to, because the water was so clear. This was at Culebra. That beach you went to, we went to as well. Yeah. And we just did a vlog on that on this very channel. You can watch it if you want. Not the cows, he said.
Not the cows.
Play the Jaws theme whenever a cow walks up.
You're going to have nightmares tonight of walking down and cows flying out of the sky, crashing into your car.
Not the sharks. Exploring the Great Barrier Reef in Queensland is one of the best experiences I've ever been a part of. That sounds awesome.
That's actually where I learned to dive, in Cairns.
Yeah. Well, the water in Culebra was so clear that I could look down 30 feet and see the surface and fish on the bottom.
It was even cleaner than the air.
Yeah, it probably was. And I was just hoping, well, we were probably out there swimming for like 2-3 hours and looking at all the different coral. And I was like, I'm just kind of hoping big great white doesn't come close, but just swims by. And then I would get out immediately. I'd be like, okay, I'm done. But I can say I just wanted a nice little moment there where I feel
like
tiny.
You've seen, and humbled by it.
Right, and I'd have a great respect. I still have a great respect for it.
I did touch on this with you earlier, but for the sake of this, all of your photography underwater, was that done with the iPhone?
Most of it, yeah.
Because I was really impressed.
Yeah, I probably did more than I should have, because the iPhone I have is rated for 6 meters deep for 30 minutes.
Okay.
So that's what they say is
But you
safe.
wouldn't have been 6 meters deep if you're snorkeling.
Only a couple times.
Snorkeling, you're normally not more than about 15 feet.
Yeah, there were a few points where we were going uncomfortably deep, where my ears were
popping,
freaking out, and I had to do the nose thing. But it was also in salt water, which is not what it's rated for. It's rated for fresh. It's more protected for if you drop it in a pool or a toilet, or
a toilet. I don't know that. I don't know if it's protected for that. That might be.
Hopefully,
avoid the warranty.
Toilet. Right. They don't recommend doing what I did with it, but
you have to fish it out of the septic tank.
Right. You flush it down. Well, maybe if you had a bad experience with it, you just.
That's how. Anyway, back to the camera. I've seen some examples. The resolution and the clarity of the images was very impressive.
Yeah, every time we're in a cool place where there's lots of stuff underwater, I try to film with it, even though it's not recommended. And I actually noticed some issues with the speaker after I did that, it started rattling a little bit. So later on, I was playing it when we were back at the house we were staying at. And I was like, uh-oh, I guess I broke the speaker. That's not good. And we were kind of annoyed by it. And I was kind of like, well, the memory will last forever. The phone is temporary, so whatever. But we went to Calabria, and there were fish swimming up to my feet. And I was like, well, the speaker's broken anyway, so might as well film underwater.
If you're in for an inch, you're in for a mile.
Yeah, it's like, why am I worried about the phone? That's fine. So I filmed it again underwater, and after I filmed it again, the speaker was fixed. It started working again.
They have to put that in the instructions. If your speaker starts a rattling sound, the fix is put it underwater again.
I think just some sand or debris got caught in there, and I dislodged it with more water. So I did something, and now it works fine. You could never tell.
Is that this phone?
Yeah, this same phone.
That's awesome.
So there were a couple of shots where I borrowed the footage from my friend Zach. He had a GoPro, and it was attached to
that.
Yeah, I think just the last 3 shots of the Calabria vlog were with the GoPro, but everything else was with the phone. But we took he had a handle on the GoPro that was would float.
Oh.
So if you lost track of it or something, it would just come to the surface. Whereas my phone will not float. So when we were at Crash Boat Beach jumping into the water, this is probably like 10 feet jump. It was not huge, but not little either. We were nervous that if I kept jumping in with the phone, it was eventually going to fall out of my hand and sink to the bottom. But we could see pretty well, so we were like, I think we're okay. And yeah, it films at a 4K resolution, 60 frames a second, so you can get really high res, really smooth video. So I've been very.
So that's the native resolution. By the time you upload it to YouTube, is it still maintain that resolution, or is it?
The resolution is maintained,
but not the frame rate.
The frame rate, yeah, they're both maintained, but there's compression involved.
Oh, okay.
So not all 4K is created equal, as they say.
Yeah, they use what do they call it? Adaptive differential encoding.
That's probably it.
They interpolate from frame to frame, some pixels.
You'll notice it if I play you the vlog on that computer versus if I play it straight from YouTube. There's little artifacts and some compression you'll pick up in, which is why actually I don't think most people watch YouTube at 4K. But my goal with uploading most of my content in 4K is just to preserve as much as possible, because I know YouTube's going to steamroll it.
I see.
So most people watch.
I like that.
Yeah.
But the other thing, in years to come, when bandwidth becomes cheaper, they might actually change it and remove that compression.
Yeah,
and then,
I hope so.
And then broadcast it in its native.
Right. Well, what's interesting is they support very high resolution, but the compression still stays at, like, you can upload 8K to YouTube now for free. You can do 8K at 60 frames a second, which are these huge file sizes, but you're always going to get a little bit of quality loss because they're trying to stream it.
And those guys that are managing this at YouTube, they figured out the trade-off. It's almost logarithmic, like very small impairment of the video quality can result in a very large saving in bandwidth.
Right.
So they've got to find that happy point in the middle.
Exactly.
Where they've got optimum video, but still optimum use of bandwidth.
Right, and the truth is the amount of people that watch YouTube at resolution
wouldn't even notice the difference.
They would never know. Yeah, because
you're kind of a very picky person when you're looking at video, yeah. So you're
there's
very critical.
I find myself pretty, compared to some other techies out there, I'm pretty chill about it. But yeah. Video from Marquez showed that if there's some elements of a video that stay the same, like a background, that information will not be updated. Yeah, that's right. True.
Well, that's adaptive differential encoding.
You can see our video here. That door and the light switch.
That's in the same.
That's the same data.
The whole time. So why retransmit that every
right until I do this. Now they just had to re-update all that code. Randy said Langley Air Force Base. Have you heard of that one?
I think that's down near where the FBI. Langley. Yeah, that's
Stillwell SPA War. Do you know what that?
What is? Show me.
Stillwell.
Spa War. I know what that is. Yeah.
He said you'll know what.
Yeah. That is. Spa War. That's the. Well, I'm not allowed to say on this show.
Oh, okay. All right.
It's the telecommunications network for the troops out in the field.
Oh. Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll have to just assume they'll keep it a secret. Yeah. It's between us guys. Wonder when we'll get 4K at 120 FPS. There are cameras that do it, just not my phone.
Well, that's also the cameras that can do it, but even if you upload it upstream that to YouTube, they're not going to rebroadcast.
No, YouTube doesn't support 120.
They're going to trim it.
I really wish they would, because I'm kind of a refresh rate junkie. I like.
And it works very well with high speed video, like car racing, or if you're videoing a train, you're on a train and you're doing 100 miles an hour. Instead of being a blur, like the guy in the movie the other day, he's doing a painting from the train and he's painting a blur.
Right, Top Secret. That's a good movie.
Yeah, who was that? Kevin Bacon.
Val Kilmer. His first movie.
Oh yeah. That's right.
I highly recommend Top Secret. It's if you're an adult. You can handle the raunchiness, but Halami asked, was the water salt water that second time? No, sorry, it was salt water both times. There was no freshwater swimming in Puerto Rico because there's all beaches. There probably are a couple of swimming locations that are freshwater, but we didn't hit them up. So good thing I hate getting wet. No need to mess with sharks. I think it'd be cool. Have you ever seen whale sharks?
No, I haven't. The only sharks I've encountered are in Cairns in North Queensland, and they're reef sharks. They're little, 3-4 feet long.
Yeah, we saw one. They claimed Zach, who we were with, claimed it wasn't a shark, but it was a big probably 4.5 foot fish. That we were having a restaurant that had like a deck that went over the water, and it was delicious food there. And then we looked over the edge, and there was just this big fish in the water, and it looked very shark-like, but. No, I haven't seen much. I just meant, have you heard of what a whale shark is?
Oh, I think I have, but I can't.
They're the biggest fish in the ocean.
But it's not a shark; it's a fish.
I guess it's a type of shark technically, but it's in the shark family. But it's not a fast moving. It's not aggressive. People swim right up to them and
they're
touch
probably
them.
Like dredges that they just filter everything on the bottom of the surface of.
Yeah, I don't think they're bottom feeders, but they do eat like krill, like a whale does. But they're not whale because they have gills and the tail goes upright. All whales have tails that go side to side.
Oh, is that right?
And they have blowholes because they're mammals. They're not fish.
Well, then that's not a shark. Yeah.
Right. So this one is a fish because it fits that definition, but it's like the size of a whale, and it's just.
And you saw one.
I didn't see one, but I was hoping. I don't think they're in that area, but I've just always been fascinated by large creatures because it makes me feel. Small. I feel humbled, and I feel like a tiny piece of a big puzzle, big world. When I watch lots of videos of people close with elephants and stuff, and I always feel like we were in the San Diego Zoo last year, and we got to the elephants were my favorite part because they're just these big creatures, but they're so
gentle and so docile, unless you really annoy them, and
they were really peaceful and fun to watch. So I've always just wanted to see whales or big creatures in the water, and I was hoping to see one. Even if it was a shark, I don't honestly think if you were snorkeling that they would just run at you and attack you. It's from what I've read, it's incredibly uncommon. Random question: have either of you guys heard of Peloton? Asks
Well,
Jackson.
Peloton is the brand of what is it, fitness bike that has all the computers on board, and yes, I've heard of them.
Mm-hmm.
And I've also heard of the Peloton, which is the group of bicycles in the Tour de France that.
Oh, that's different.
That's the main group.
Oh, okay.
You got the lead, and you got the Peloton. So, but what's the question anyway?
Well, I wonder. Oh, just asking if we'd heard of it. I bet he's asking because I've heard the company's not doing very well. Which I always thought was a weird business model. Basically, they had to sell like $2,000 exercise bikes, and then after that, you have to pay a $50 a month subscription just to use the thing.
Yeah, that's their business model. Yes.
I guess that might be better than a gym for some.
I'm not into that, so I don't really know.
Either.
But
well, I'm into mountain biking.
But actually, oh, sorry.
That's all right. Well, I just mean that for that price, you could get for much cheaper. You could get a much better real bike and actually go places.
But it doesn't monitor your health in real time and send all your heart rate.
You could do the watch,
and then it's going to calculate and it's going to adjust the load according to
go up a hill.
Yeah,
right?
I know. It's like
you don't have to bike very far. You'll find some hard places.
We're getting to the stage where people will only know how to use like indoor bike. If you put them on a real bike outside and they go whoop.
Right, they can't stay upright. Well, you were telling me about a bike you got in Florida. It was pretty cheap, right?
Oh yeah, well I forget the brand, but I bought it online, $150, and
if you have $150 and an Apple Watch. Yeah. You've got the health tracking data.
Well, if you live near the ocean and you have a bike, you don't want to spend a lot of money on it because the salt air will cause a lot of corrosion.
Yeah, that's true.
And the longest I've owned a bike in Florida is like 4 years, and then they go in the dumpster because they just fall to pieces and they're so rusty.
I am discovering bikes are tricky. Maybe that's what they were hoping for at the Peloton, because I've had so many issues with chains and tires, and someone stole one, so that sucked.
Well, I wanted to just going back on the Peloton. I'm guessing the writer, or I forget his name. Jackson was just more or less, is the company got a future? My question is for you. Mm-hmm. What about Facebook? Facebook tanked the other day. Meta. Sorry, Meta. I was watching it the other day. It fell 20% on one day and something like 25% the next day. Mm-hmm. Zuckerberg lost $30 billion of his personal wealth in one day, or 48 hours, shall we say, 2 days. And that's the most money or value that anybody has ever lost. $30 billion.
$30 billion.
Oh, it's just,
I slept really well that night.
Yeah.
I was so happy because I'm obviously a big Apple fan and a big Tesla fan, and a lot of my livelihood, it's right there.
Hopefully that his next Tesla will be a little bit bigger than this one.
Yeah, I hope so. I like a lot of big tech companies because I utilize their services, and I don't love everything Google does, but I'm very grateful they exist because that's how you guys are watching this, and that's my livelihood, and that has paid for so much of our travel in this house, and I'm grateful for things Google does, and I think that Google does a lot of things really well. I don't think any of the companies I listed are perfect. I complain about Apple probably more than I complain about Facebook, but I just don't really like or appreciate any of the services they've come up with. They've bought a lot of popular services, but they're
WhatsApp.
Not Instagram, Oculus. Yeah, they've bought a bunch of properties, but I personally think they've broken and ruined most of them. Like I used to really like Instagram before Facebook bought them, and now they've kind of complicated it and made it.
Well, it seems to me that the company's just got too big for its own boots.
Yeah. And
when some smaller startup comes up with a new technology, rather than to try and compete with it, they just buy that company.
Yeah.
And if they have something that's competing with it, they'll just buy the company and destroy it.
Right.
Which that doesn't give the little guy a chance to survive.
Doesn't encourage innovation.
And it doesn't encourage innovation. Yeah. Exactly.
So there's things I don't like about Google at all, but I will admit that there's certain things that they do really well. I don't have that certain thing for Meta or Facebook.
Sorry,
it's like the social media I've used somewhat, and I think it's too much of a mess. I don't really like the social media itself.
I've always been the anti-Facebook guy because initially when it first came out, I thought it was very invasive, and people were
poking you, and
people were posting things like, "I woke up this morning and I had a toothache." I mean, I don't really care if you had a toothache. Well, I do. I don't mean to sound not empathetic, but
sure,
you know, you can't be, you know, listening to that stuff forever.
Right. Well, Randy said no one was able to buy
$30 million. I don't think I can.
I don't think I'll ever find $30 million.
I don't think I'll ever find $30 million, let alone 30.
Yeah. Right. No, I don't think all the money. If I never spent $1 in my life, but I made all the money, I'll probably never make $30 million.
Wow.
Did you get a tan from your trip to Puerto Rico? No. See, I'm a redhead. I just burn. I don't tan. But I did not. Surprisingly, I did not get sunburn the whole trip.
Oh.
I got a little red occasionally, but
did you use a lot of sunblock?
We did, yeah.
I think I read on the news that the beach, the ocean around Puerto Rico was milky in color.
It was a little bit.
I think that's all your sunblock washing off.
It was all me. It's up to me.
It's your fault.
My bad. Scott said, talk about Puerto Rico lately. Drew just went and just watched the remake of West Side Story, and it was so good. You'll make me want to go there. It's a beautiful place. I knew nothing about it a couple months ago.
Thank you for saying that, because a friend of mine that lives in DC said, "Oh, you've got to go and see the new West Side Story." It's just, I haven't.
Spielberg did it, right?
Spielberg, that's right. Yeah,
I've heard it's good. Yeah, it's probably worth it. Every time I go to the beach, I'm terrified of great white sharks. I'm just into it.
Listen, you can't let things like that spoil your life.
All I would say is, from all the shark documentaries and videos I've watched, if you put up a fight, they'll probably leave you be. Go for the nose, hit them, and don't stop hitting them, and you'll probably be fine.
That might be pretty tough to do when a shark has got his jaws wrapped around your ankle.
I gotta show you this video recently, but I saw a video of a scuba diver, and a big great white was coming right at him.
Yeah.
And he had this trick. He just grabbed him by the nose and
twisted
it, and the shark went vertical and then just stopped, and he just swam away, and then eventually the shark,
or unless you're Crocodile Dundee, and then you go like this.
You got like the Three Stooges, pop them in the eyes. Wow, he said better than the original. That's high praise. Jackson said, to have a decent setup with the Peloton, you basically need an Apple Watch. I'm not even crazy. I mean, we're probably going to get into it soon, but I'm not even crazy about the idea of gym memberships. So I had a hard time getting behind the Peloton, just because I think regular bikes are so useful. So whenever I heard about it, because Louise had some coworkers that had them, and I was like, how does it work again? I actually tried one once. I forgot. I was visiting a friend once, and they had one, and I was like, that looks like an iPad attached to a bike. What is that? And I got on it, and I used it a little bit, and I was like,
that's what it was, an iPad attached to a bike.
That's basically what a Peloton is. So I didn't understand why people would justify that expense, but I guess enough people did it. But
yeah, I haven't even tried it. I don't even know what it does, but I don't see the need for it. If you live in an area where you've got good bike trails, just go outside and get the fresh air.
It's cheaper. It's much cheaper, and you can actually go places instead of. I would have thought it would have been way cooler if they at least had some kind of regenerative motor in there.
Yeah, so you could power your house.
Yeah,
with the energy that you are.
Plug it into an inverter. I always thought gyms should do
charge batteries.
Yeah. Can you imagine a gym with all those exercise bikes if they all had regenerative motors?
I thought of that before, like at airports when you've got like a 2-hour layover between cities, or between flights. They should have all these exercycles there, and they're charging the batteries to light up the airport.
Right. So it could be it's like double use. Yeah. It's like it's helpful for the.
So that would incentivize you because the airport's utility bills will go down, which means that they can pass that savings on in terms of a reduction in your airfare.
Yeah, if they do it more direct, there's just a little quarter comes out. So if you pedal hard enough, they just dispense.
And then you take the quarter out and you put it in a slot for another 15 minutes of lights.
The lights go off if you don't. I remember when Facebook used to be simple and fun, Farmville and Petville, when I was around 8 or 9. Yeah, I did those games too.
Oh, they had games on Facebook?
Yeah, they were pretty bad, but I played a lot of them. That was the whole reason I made a Facebook account. But
that was back in the days when it was called the Facebook.
The Facebook, right.
Like there was only one.
Right. So I don't know what that company's good at. To me, it just seems like they love to track people's data, because on their last earnings report, they said they lost all this money because of Apple's new App Store policy that makes it harder for them to track data.
Oh, is that why the
users.
stock collapsed? I thought
I think that was
it was
one of
something to do with the first time ever that they had less subscribers than the previous quarter.
You
Is that
told me
right?
that, yeah, and
Oh.
I'm sure that contributed. I think it was several things that contributed to the drop, but basically the earnings call was all bad news. Like everything they reported sounded like.
I don't know. Was Zuckerberg hosting the call?
I didn't listen to it. I just read about it. The only earnings calls I tune into are Tesla's, but the Meta brand as a whole. I mean, in the first place, I've always thought VR is kind of cool, but I wasn't just super into it. So, and I'm not a big fan of Instagram, or everyone overseas uses WhatsApp, but here almost no one uses it. Have you noticed that with people you
A lot
meet
of
up with
US
here?
people don't use WhatsApp,
Right.
but WhatsApp is my favorite because it's very international, and you don't
Right.
have to pay for your long distance or international phone calls.
Exactly. Yeah, it comes up a lot in our streams of people saying, because there's a lot of debate around Apple's and iMessage right now, and everyone overseas is like, we're just using WhatsApp. Like, what is this discussion with iMessage? But it's incredibly common in the United States. So,
Well,
I'm so
somebody
detached.
should come out with an app that integrates all your WhatsApp and FaceTime and all the other
Oh, that'd
Skype,
be interesting.
just one app,
Yeah.
and it will join all those apps together. So if you have WhatsApp and someone else has Skype, then
Right.
you can cross-pollinate, cross-communicate.
That would be really cool.
Yeah, so
That'd be interesting.
I just
I
told
feel
them,
like-
I should have come up with
Yeah, I
it.
was
We
going to
should have
say,
come up with it.
Meta would probably do it before everyone else.
No, we could do it, then they'll buy us, and then they destroy it.
Then we'll find $30 billion. It could actually happen. They'll buy us out. But yeah, Meta, they own Facebook Messenger, which is the most common messaging app in the US, and they own WhatsApp
And Instagram.
and
What
Instagram.
else
So
do they own?
Oculus and
But in terms of communication, like
I think that's it. I think they tried to.
but
buy
that's about
Snapchat.
90% of the planet.
Yeah, you've got
Skype doesn't count anymore. Everybody
Right.
sort of moved away from
You've
Skype.
got a near monopoly right there. So there's issues with having different platforms, but I also think the alternative of having one company in charge of all messages is probably not great either, especially if it's Meta. I don't think
They've got a bad track record.
I kind of appreciate and enjoy that I don't use any of Meta's apps or services in my daily life at all. I mean, I'll occasionally log into Instagram and post something, but I don't have the app on my phone, and occasionally we'll use Facebook Messenger, but not daily. It's very rare. So
That's good to know.
I would be happy to find out they went bankrupt or they went under or any number of things. I'd be like, yep.
Well, I don't know if I'd be happy about that. But,
Well, I think all the
what
talented
I'd like to see is the up and coming innovative
new
companies
companies
develop
Sure.
and not be stifled by the likes of a Meta.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I think all the talented software engineers at those companies would go and find new jobs at other companies. I don't think they would be out of a job for long, but I just want that corporate mindset of buy out all the competition or
To be prevented from recurring.
yeah, or track everyone's data, and that's our business model. I'm like, whoever's deciding that should be their form of profit, let's get rid of those businesses. I don't want that sticking around.
So, any more questions about the train trip? Because
Oh,
that's
yeah.
the overall theme of today's.
Yeah, we've really gone off the rails here.
Oh, boom, boom.
What would be cool is a streaming app where you sign into all your accounts and then can search all this. Yeah, he just.
Well, that's more or less what we were talking
Yeah,
about.
Jack said you beat him to it. Skype really blew it to Zoom. Oh, that's true. Zoom has gotten more popular.
Yeah, and Zoom took off so quickly, didn't it? It was
Zoom.
I remember using Zoom, but just the audio part
Oh.
a year before
COVID?
the epidemic.
Oh.
But when the epidemic
Wow.
came, I don't know whether they timed it or how they did it, but
Mhm.
Zoom really took off then.
Yeah, I don't understand what they
And
did.
Skype, that does everything that Skype does.
Yeah, I don't
And
understand. what
Skype
changed.
were asleep at the wheel or something.
I didn't follow that very closely because I was already working from home. So when the pandemic hit, my work life didn't change much. But for some reason, yeah, Skype and Microsoft Teams was most of it. And then who's the other guy? This is my father-in-law, Pete.
Hi, whoever that is.
We started
Who's that?
Stitch.
Hey, Stitch.
I don't know how to.
A stitch in time saves 9.
You're a poet and you didn't know it.
Hey.
But yeah, I'm excited for our train journey. That's what we started off getting into training.
But once again, we went off on a tangent for a railway branch.
We had a switch rails.
Switch tracks.
We watched a movie about trains recently. I don't know. It was probably unrealistic, but it was called Nonstop.
Oh.
Or Unstoppable. Sorry.
Oh, was that with Denzel Washington?
Yeah, did you see that
I
one?
love that movie.
Oh, yeah?
It's a bit far-fetched, but
yeah.
First of all, I love Denzel Washington. He's great in everything he does.
Yeah. No, I thought it was well done, but yeah, a little hard to believe.
Oh, that's the movie where he's got 2 daughters that have some kind of drama at home, and he's trying to he's driving this big old train, and the daughters are calling about the problems they're having.
Probably the whole event that kicks off the problem of that movie. For those who don't know, it's about like a runaway train that's going really fast and it's
going to
filled
crash
with
into the city,
and it's filled with toxic chemicals, and it's going 70 miles an hour and no one's in front of it. But what kicks off the whole movie is a guy like trying to change the direction of the train.
He has a heart attack, right?
Or he's just fat.
Yeah, and
he just can't.
He can't get up to
so he gets off to the train and he's like, "Don't worry, I'll hit it." And they're like, "Hey, what are you doing? Don't do that." And he tries to run up, but then something on the train accelerates it a little bit, and he gets ahead of him. And I was like, I bet that like never happens, right? That must be near impossible. Or shouldn't there be a remote way to stop a train now, if you needed to?
That's really funny. Like something happened to me a few years ago when I was in Tasmania. I was down there. I'm visiting a guy that has a couple of helicopters there, and at the hotel where I was staying at in Devonport, there's a train line right in front of the hotel, and the train ran out of control, and it was a remote controlled train.
Oh,
in other words, a driverless train with like 30 cars of bauxite or something, some heavy cargo, and it crashed right in front of the hotel. And I thought,
wow.
Why would they have no driver on a train like this? And shouldn't the default be that if it loses communications, instantly the engines go to idle and the brakes go on?
Yeah, that was going to be
like
my next
fail
question.
safe method. And I thought, what's wrong with this
like
picture?
if something gets disconnected, then,
the default is engine to idle and brakes on.
Right. I would imagine it should be if you have connection, then go.
Yeah.
And if you lose connection, then stop.
That's right. That's a fail-safe method.
Right. So it's by default it won't go anywhere until it gets connection. So I'm confused that that's even possible.
I didn't even know that there are like big freight trains like that would be driverless.
Yeah, I feel like especially
I'm used to the train at the airport where you go from Terminal A to Terminal B being driverless, but
well, there's all this talk about, Tesla's trying to get more autonomous and doing. There are a few companies like Waymo and Cruise that have autonomous taxis driving around a few cities.
Are they actually in practice now?
They are. They're very limited form. They don't go
trial.
They don't go very far.
They go from one house to next door. That's it. Across the street.
Yeah, one of them in Waymo is in Chandler, Arizona. And if you ever go there, you'll know why. It's because all the roads are very wide and they're very straight.
It's like a grid, north, south, and east, west.
And people who have taken the Waymo have said that they'll only take right turns. So
you're always going clockwise.
It's very slow, and then they'll bring the Tesla.
And you know why right-hand turns? Because you never turn into oncoming traffic.
Right. It's never unprotected. So it's not very efficient. So they brought the Tesla FSD beta software there, and it outperformed Waymo every time. But they still exist in some form, but I just thought, why wouldn't trains be the first to adopt an autonomous system?
Yeah.
Because there's no steering involved.
And it would be so simple to make it fail-safe.
Right. Just if no connection, turn off. And depending on where you are, you have GPS data, you know exactly where you can be. Just accelerate when you're on a straight path and decelerate when you're on a turn.
Yeah,
I feel like that would be the easiest thing in the world.
Not many lines of code you'd have to write.
No, I feel like that would be so simple, but it still hasn't been done. I've been told, a friend of mine has a dad that works on trains. Remember Eddie I was telling you about, the nuclear energy? His dad works on locomotives and stuff.
Hey,
you should meet him sometime.
Well, but I want to say about the trains.
Yeah.
We'll get the chance to talk to some of the drivers.
Really?
When they stop.
Wow.
We can walk up and chat with them.
Oh, that'd be fun.
Because at all the stations, that the big stations like Denver and that, they refuel locomotives.
Oh, right.
No, they won't let you near while they're refueling.
Aren't they diesel electric?
They're diesel fueled, and
but they're electric.
They have a diesel generator on board, and that generator is driving the electric motors that drive the wheels.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
It's got.
Well, the beauty of that is that you don't have to have complicated transmission systems.
Right.
If it was a direct drive, like an automobile,
you would want gears.
The gearbox would weigh more than the engine. Yeah. And there would be a lot of extra weight.
That's fascinating that it's like it takes diesel, but it's still an electric motor.
Yeah.
That's kind of interesting. Cato just said, wanted to say I really like the chill live stream interacting with your followers. It's a nice chat. Yeah, we've always enjoyed, every time I think you visited, we've done this, and it always goes pretty well. FSD beta on trains would be entertaining to hear train engineer feedback on that. My guess is, my running theory I was going to say is that the cost of operating the train is obviously much more than it is a taxi or something.
But you amortize it over so many people. A taxi can carry 4 people, 4 passengers, but a train can carry 1,000 passengers.
Right. It's more efficient, but getting rid of the conductor and having a driverless train wouldn't save you that much money.
But the safety factor of having a driver is that much greater.
Right. So the cost of paying, is it a driver or a conductor? I don't know which to call it.
In my terminology, a conductor is the guy that walks down the train. He's the boss, and he supervises everything. The engineer is the guy that sits behind the controls.
Okay.
But I've heard people say the conductor is the driver.
Okay. Well, whoever's job you would eliminate by making the whole train autonomous, it would save a fraction of the overall cost of operating the train.
But the safety factor would be...
And the safety would be a bigger question, assuming that software isn't designed properly, which I guess...
proves out that it hasn't been fully developed yet.
I feel like there's got to be
still using beta versions of it.
Right. You could develop a driving system that didn't require steering, that would take out a lot of the complexity.
My mother used to, this is from Scott again, my mother used to work at CSX as an engineer, and I believe most train workers are unionized, so I imagine losing jobs or software probably isn't a popular idea.
Yeah, it's definitely not.
But I'm actually, I agree with you, Scott. I would rather have somebody, set of eyes, actually 2 sets of eyes up the front of the train, especially at night when you're susceptible to falling asleep.
Yeah.
But they have all kinds of mechanisms in the front of the train to stop the drivers.
Sure, just like cars.
No, well, what happens every 30 seconds or 45 seconds, an alarm goes off, and the driver has to reach over and press a button to stop that alarm. And if he doesn't do it within 10 seconds, the brakes will come on.
So it's got just like a car emergency braking type of thing.
If in a car you fall asleep, you're going to crash. But on a train, if you fall asleep, this alarm's going to go off, and if you don't reset it, the train will stop.
Wow. So you have to tell it
specifically. You have to physically move forward, press the button.
The software just has to work like that.
You see a little software-driven hammer.
Yeah, software-driven.
Press the button.
Yeah. In regards to the train thing, I feel it has to do with the size and or number of lives. They may not want to risk that type of liability. That's true. Yeah. I think that, to me, it's more... I think, personally, we may disagree, but I think, personally, there is a really good way to make it safe and autonomous. Obviously, the unions won't be happy about that, but I think the bigger reason is just there's not much financial incentive. Removing 1 or 2 staff isn't going to
as you said, for a car with 4 passengers or less, it makes sense, but for a large train...
like an Uber ride.
It's a very small percentage of the overall cost.
Yeah, when you take an Uber or a taxi, the driver is the most expensive part of the equation. The cost of charging or the cost of fuel is really not that much. You're paying for the guy's time to sit there and drive you. So if you can make a robo-taxi, which is what these companies are trying to do, you can get the cost per mile astronomically lower.
And you know what? If they do this for trains, the next logical step is they'll do it for planes. Oh, they'll have a plane with 400 passengers on board, but nobody up front.
Right. I've heard there's a lot of autonomy with airline jets already, right?
Oh, they have autopilot, but the latest one is where the captain says, "Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. Nothing can go wrong. Can go wrong. Can go wrong. Can go wrong. Can go wrong."
Like a broken record. Yeah, that's good. No, I read an article about Takeoff one jet was having, and the computer on the plane recognized that they didn't have enough runway left, and they weren't going fast enough. They weren't going to make it.
That's
so the computer slammed the brakes and activated the.
And that happened to me while I wasn't flying. I was a passenger on a Lufthansa flight coming out of Miami. It was a 747-8, the latest 747, not 800 but 8.
Huge plane.
And we were rolling down the runway at Miami Airport, and then bang, the brakes came on, and everybody's laptop went sliding forward. The kid behind me had an iPad on his lap, and it slid underneath me all the way to the front, and he couldn't find it when the plane stopped.
Oh no!
But as we got off the plane, I said to the captain, "Well, that was quick acting, putting the brakes on. What caused it?" Because he was waiting at the door as all the passengers got off for an hour while I figured out what the problem is. He says, "I didn't do that. The automated system did it."
I just hope he was telling the truth.
Because they have like a computerized system that has all these interlocks and checks that have to, and if there's literally thousands of systems that are being monitored
redundancy
second by second, and if one of them fails, then it automatically, if it's before V1, that's the speed that you start to rotate.
Right.
Then the brakes will come on, and the pilot and control doesn't have the power to stop it.
Right.
I mean, so to stop that action.
That's a lot of authority to give to a computer. So I think about like all the systems they must have in place because of the FAA and all the requirements of software you need. But like, there's been planes canceled because of 5G towers. Have you heard about that?
Yeah.
Did you see that in the news?
Oh, that's
it's
a problem
confusing.
Because as a radio engineer, I don't know. I have to really study up on that, and maybe on the next blog we do together.
Yeah. Well, I've heard it's about like the C-band wavelength.
Yeah, C-band is 4 to 6 gigahertz.
And it was interfering with their altimeters.
My question is, why is it only in the US that's doing this? Why is it not in Europe, for example, or Australia or other countries that have 5G?
Yeah, well, the problem I have with 5G that it causes these kinds of problems is there's so many different versions of it. There's low band 5G, which is oftentimes, well, maybe not often, but a recordable number of times slower than 4G, which is like, what's the point? Why would we even call it 5G? And then there's a mid-band 5G, which has...
Well, that might be the C-band.
Yeah, that's probably C-band, and it has decent range and pretty good speeds, and that's probably what we're streaming on right now. And then there's ultra-wideband, which is where you get like the gigabit speed, but very short range. Like you would interfere the signal if you were inside a house. You couldn't get it. You'd have to be in line of sight of the tower.
The higher the frequency, the greater the attenuation of the signal, of the shorter the distance it can travel.
And I guess
it's just like your Wi-Fi at home, where you've got your 2.4 gigahertz and your 5 gigahertz options. Most modern.
Correct.
The 5 gigahertz option is only going to go from one room to the next, but the 2.4 gigahertz will cover the entire thing.
But the 5 gigahertz is faster.
Yes, and there's more available bandwidth there.
Right, exactly. Yeah. That's why you keep the router there and everything. Scott says, personally though, I think automated trains would be pretty cool, especially if it means they wouldn't have to blare the horn at 2 a.m. anymore.
Well, the purpose of the horn is not for the train, it's for the people on the track.
Right. I think it would still, even the autonomous train, they would
still blow the horn. Yeah.
Cato says, in Sydney we have a fully automatic driverless metro line.
Yeah.
Have you taken that before?
I think so. I can't remember. Where does it go, Cato? Is it not?
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. Is that the one?
That sounds cool. It's not really a train, but it's a rail system on the Sacramento airport.
Yeah.
That takes you between the terminals, and it's all autonomous. There's no one driving.
Most airports in the U.S. have that.
Yeah.
Miami airport, but
that's right. I took it when you picked me up. You just get on and it moves pretty fast.
I think the driver is sitting in a little control console, and it's not really a robot. It's the driver with a TV camera.
Right. Well, good night, Randy. It's late for him. It's midnight.
I think
it's getting late for us. Yeah.
we got a long journey starting tomorrow.
In France, they're using the same spectrum, and it hasn't been an issue.
Yeah, that's a good point. Who said that?
Scott.
Scott. Okay.
I think it's a redundancy thing. They're trying to be extra cautious with the airlines here, but yeah, I don't think it was actually causing a real issue. They were just being really careful.
Superly cautious.
We're like, the altimeter might not work
Who needs an altimeter anyway?
but I think the altimeters are relying on multiple factors, and the C-band is just one of them or something. He says the Sydney Metro goes from Chatswood to Tallawong.
Oh yeah, that's right. I've been on that lots of times.
Oh, you have? Okay.
Yeah,
cool.
That's the Tallawong, and that train is like a big snake. And if you're in the front carriage, you can look all the way down to the back carriage, 8 cars away.
It's all open?
It's all open.
Oh, wow.
So you can sit right up at the front of it. Huh. Yeah, that's right. Thank you for that.
That's really cool.
Yeah, I remember that now.
Yeah, well, I'm excited to see it someday. Hopefully this year. Who knows? With how
I'll take you on that to Tallawong.
Yeah.
What I recommend, if we can't do a blog on the train, we'll do one definitely in New York, and we'll have a lot more knowledge about the trip and maybe some videos that we can share.
Yeah, I'll edit them all together. We'll have time, I think, and I'll bring my laptop, and stay tuned because it'll all be on this channel. So we've got some packing to do. Yeah. So we'll sign off now. We went way longer than we thought.
Doesn't matter. It was enjoyable.
It was fun though. It was good. So
as usual, we diverged onto a whole plethora of different subjects.
I just want to keep saying off the rails because it's irrelevant. Off the rails is on the rails. But
stay on track.
Stay on track. Thank you all for tuning in.
Good night.
We'll see you on the other
side.
Take care.
Next time we call, we'll be on the East Coast.